Hi folks, it's the Big Dog here. It's been a little while since I've had time to get on to do a video update, so I thought I'd do a shout on today. As you can see, we're out and about in the bigger truck today. We're not in my own car or my own truck doing any rescue work today. Currently doing some agency work just to pump up the funds for Christmas. There's been an awful lot going on, an awful lot. Since my last lot of videos where I was working security and just doing some work on my bike and so on. My beautiful Harley Davidson that you can see in one of my previous videos, unfortunately had to be sold. It was sacrificed for the greater good, as I've now had to obtain my Class 2 HGV license to be moving forward in my career. As a lot of people will know who know me, I do a lot of rescue work, recovery work, and I've moved on from having a B license and from the A license and B license to having my B&E license, which cost an absolute fortune. I think it was nearly £500 for that. I've moved on and done my Class 2 truck license as well as my recovery and rescue qualifications. I think my Class 2 has ended up costing me the best part of probably £2,100, £2,100. There's quite an interesting tale behind why it costs so much. It's not a cheap excursion at the best of times. If it's something you intend to do with your career, and obviously I recommend it, as you can earn good money, it's always a good step to move on. I paid, I think it was about £1,600 for a full crash course for my Class 2, which included my my initial medical, and then on to theory exams, and obviously my full Class 2 test, and then you have 35 hours of compulsory professional training to do for your CPC as well. What they don't tell you is that your tacho card is an extra expense that costs you more money. I think that cost me £32 extra on top. Now my Class 2, while I was doing it, I was very ill for a good month or two during the period of doing it, which is why it sent me back while doing it. It took probably about 3 months to do it, and passed all the tests, did absolutely fine. Did the medical, passed that. Did the theory, passed that. Obviously the theory isn't too much difference from what you expect with your car license, and having done a B&E towing license as well, I was somewhat accustomed to larger loads, towing with the rescue industry, with rescue trailers and so on. But the extra cost for me was an extra £410 for a retest, having failed my Class 2 test the first time round, which is 90% my own fault, 10% someone else's. I was on my test outside of bus lane hours, and there was a separated bus lane to my left hand side on the carriageway, a section of bus lane separated by a wide junction, and the bus lane resumed. I didn't cotton on to the fact that it was outside bus lane hours until the second section of the bus lane, so I didn't use the first section of the bus lane, and the examiner failed me on that. And there was also quite a tight right hand turn where I moved a little bit too far forward in the test truck and left a gap behind me, and obviously two young yobbos, typical BMW hatchback boys, decided they didn't want to wait for the HGV to make the reasonably tight turn. Decided to shoot up the inside of me to my right hand side on the right hand turn whilst I was turning. Now obviously you can't predict that, and that's just bad behaviour on their part, but obviously the mistake on my part was leaving that gap for them to do that in the HGV, so unfortunately I failed on that as well the first time round. So the £1,600 wasn't exactly going to waste, but I had to pay. I chose to do an extended 3-hour lesson following into my retest, just as a refresher more than anything else, just to get some more knowledge, more training, and obviously I passed the second time round, so that was a nice £410 extra expenditure on top of the £1,600 that I'd already spent, which wasn't great. Obviously I think I had to sell my motorcycle in order to pay for it, in order to earn more money for my family. Having done that, I left the industry, well not the industry, the firm I was working for, who were treating staff very poorly. Went on to another company where I think I made a bit of a mistake. I took the first offer that was offered. It was a recovery company based in the centre of Manchester, and the pay was £8 an hour for someone who was licensed, qualified. I've done several vehicle recovery qualifications, which weren't cheap either. They sent me back probably £700–800 for those modules, along with my B&E license, which was £500 for Class 2, which was the price already explained. And this company obviously tore their hands off seeing me coming. They realised obviously I was in need of a job quite urgently, and decided to take this job at £8 an hour. So 6 to 8 months down the line, I'm wondering what on earth I'm doing. There's several weeks where I'm lucky to clear £350–360 a week on £8 an hour. Now obviously some folk will say, oh well, it's more than minimum wage, why are you complaining? Well, it's not. The living wage is going up past that, and when you're doing that job you're risking your life every single day. There's been several fatalities in the rescue recovery industry this year alone. The last 3 years, I don't even want to think about the amount of losses we've had. So I sat down with my wife and we discussed it, and I discussed it with the company I was with, having had a job offer to move on somewhere else at a substantially higher rate of pay. So obviously I put my notice in, did it all correctly, gave my notice, worked my notice, attended all my shifts, did my job correctly, and had a bit of a discussion with the MD of the old firm, who wasn't very best pleased at my leaving. And I explained to him, well, best will in the world, I need to move on with my career, I need to do more qualifications, forgive me. And if I tell you the rate of pay that I'm on at the other firm, you're not going to match it. You're not going to offer me the qualifications that I've been offered at the other firm, because obviously, you know, quite rightly, if he offers it to me, he has to offer it to everyone. And you know, I wouldn't be comfortable working for someone that wasn't giving everyone else the same wage that I was on for doing the same job. So I left there, moved on to this other firm who was doing a lot of police work in Manchester, a lot of police recovery work. Now, as is well known, I'm heavily involved in the motorcycle theft industry, helping people as best I can. Quite quickly into working for this firm, I was called to a motorcycle that had been crashed, that I knew had been stolen. I'd seen it on several Facebook pages beforehand. I was given a shout by the police to go and attend. Having been attending it, I already knew that several people had already seen this motorcycle. What people don't realise is that there is a huge network. There's a massive, massive movement. It's absolutely enormous. We don't realise how big it is, trying to combat motorcycle theft. Now, obviously, the owner had been made aware of this moped having been crashed and where it was by at least 3 different people on 3 different Facebook groups before I even got the call. So when I arrived at the scene, the owner was already there. She'd already claimed the motorcycle. So obviously I've got no legal grounds to take it. The police have released it to her. The next day I get a call from the bosses asking where this motorcycle is, where the paperwork is. Obviously I says, well, the owner had claimed the vehicle. I've got no right to take it off of her. I promptly got fired for refusing to take property off of someone who had claimed it from the police. Now obviously this firm wanted their impound fee and didn't get it. The owner obviously managed to avoid this impound fee by claiming it at the scene, and I had no legal rights or powers to take the vehicle. It wasn't mine, it belonged to her, and that was that as far as I was concerned. So again, I found myself out of work. Not really for any fault of my own, but morally, I'm still pretty sure that I did the right thing, and I'd do it again. Obviously, trying to help people, you know, when they've had the theft happen to them is more important. So as you can see, I'm back in the truck quite quickly. When you've got the qualification, the license that I've got, you can get back into agency work. Obviously, as within the industry, it's very difficult to find consistent set work if you're a new license holder. Now, despite the fact that I've had mine for probably 7 months now, logged thousands and thousands of miles, hundreds and hundreds of hours, and being in the recovery industry, obviously I'm higher qualified than a lot of HGV2 level drivers. Not to say that they're not very good, because they are, of course, they do the same job as I do, but I've done roadside qualifications and everything else as well, so I'm a little bit more aware of what's going on. Now, I've had an interview with a rescue firm near me on the Saddleworth and Yorkshire border. I'm working for them as of next week, so back into work, thankfully, right before Christmas, so hopefully that'll be weekly pay rather than monthly. Otherwise it's going to screw the Christmas plans up, which is doing all right. But my wife and I, we've been very, very careful on Christmas this year. She's very keen on the yearly saver schemes that you get. You pay money in for the year and you get voucher payouts to an extent at the end of the year. My wife's done that religiously all year, and obviously we've been paying into that, so we've got 99% of the kids' stuff sorted out for Christmas as it is, so they're going to have a decent Christmas. Obviously it's just stuff for our own purposes that we need to have. Oh, forgive me, I've got a bit of a sore throat at the moment. I've not done talking on video in a while, so it's been a bit of a while since I've done one of these. So I'll be trying to do a few more of them to get you caught up on what's going on. So yeah, so back in the industry again, driving the bigger trucks. I'm in an 18-ton rigid class 2 at the moment. I'm working for a firm based in Bolton. It's just basically, it's not multi-drop, it's 4 to 5 drops a day. Most of the stuff that I'm doing is just hauling from A to B, picking up, it's getting offloaded with a forklift. So there's minimal handballing involved, and I'm earning reasonable money for doing it. Unfortunately, as with anything in this industry, there's always things taking money out of your overheads. I'm working for an agency at the moment that take a fee, obviously for handling my wages and my invoices and so on. You will have your 45-minute break deducted a day, which is annoying when you're on, I think it's 11 or £11.50 an hour that I'm on, something similar. When you're losing 3.5 hours a week on wage deductions, and you're having a fee taken out of your wage by the agency for handling your wages as well, it can easily pick up very, very quickly to £50 to £60 a week that you're losing out of your wages. Now, obviously you're limited to a certain amount of driving hours, working hours that you can do, so that's something you have to be very aware of and make sure that you're not losing too much money and keeping tabs on what it is that you're doing. So obviously I'll be looking into moving forward in my career. I'll be looking at doing some high-ab crane training. I was mentioned it with my old employer, but obviously that didn't quite pan out, unfortunately. I'll be looking to move on with the recovery modules that I need to do. Unfortunately, they are extortionately expensive. You're looking £400 to £500 per module, especially for the higher end stuff, which is what I need to be doing. Moving on to the class 1 big wrecker recovery work with the big towing and the big seam crashes, which obviously where I live on the Yorkshire and Saddleworth border going over the 62, with the weather that occurs up there, there's often a lot of calls on the Snake Pass, Cat and Fiddle. As you can guess, there's a lot of calls up there, especially in the inclement weather. It's now coming toward Christmas, the end of the year, when the weather's going to be bad. So that's something to consider going forward. My wife obviously is now working full-time now that our children are a little bit older, so we're doing not too bad there. But as with anything, it's a matter of the best laid plans. Don't always go as they're meant to do, but let's see how it goes. Until then, this is the dog signing off, just giving you a quick update on what's going on. I'll try and do some more videos as and when I've got more interesting things happening. Take care, folks. I'll speak to you again soon.